Sunday morning in the small loft workshop, and today I'm going to show you how to cut 5 sets of mortise and tenons with the machines and the tools I have up here. So let's get cracking. Okay, so we've got a pile of timber here. Just rip these down and put them through the surfacer, and these are 40mm or just over 1.5 inch by 30mm, 1.1 1/8. We've got a marking gauge, we've got a square, we've got a pencil, we've got a ruler, we've got his hammer, we've got chisels and various bits and pieces. So what we're going to do first of all is just to grab one, make sure it's square. We shall call this as face and this as edge. Just mark it down here as well because I'm intending on cutting these in half, mortise tenon half, and then we'll put a square edge there. These are 40mm, so the centre is 20mm. Now when we mark these out, always mark them out from either the face or the edge mark, and then we know everything's consistent. We've always got a face and an edge to reference from. Centralise it as a chisel. Should mean we should have 15mm there, 15mm there. So this is inside mark. That's our outside mark. Square the lines over. And then make sure that when you mark this on, it's still marked from the face edge. Decent thickness of timber. Make sure we're striking this line from the edge. Right, so this setting out, I'm not going to bore you with all the setting out for all these pieces, but every time I'll cut a mortise and tenon, I'll do the same setting out as I've done on this. Fasten that to the bench, scale it to keep this square as we go in. I've not done that for about 38 years, so that'll be a bit embarrassing, we'll see. Right, let's have a go. The camera's probably in the way a little bit because let's start with the chisel about 1/8 of an inch of the way in to a 3mm, just so you don't lose the pocket of the mortar. This is slow. Imagine the old craftsman that were going through 12-inch by 12-inch oak and mortise after mortise. Some feet in the day. I'm probably doing a lot of them up in the air as well. A way to go yet. About 3/8 left to go. Obviously I don't want to break through, so I'll joint it from the other end. I'll take as much out this side as I can. Still short, because you use as your mortise, you use these sort of two shoulders as a bit of leverage. Let's just clearing them out just right at the end, and then you're not damaging, or else you end up trying to put your mortise in, you end up with a big unsightly hole there. So let's have a go through the other end and see if we can make contact with the other side. There's a couple of ways to do this. First of all, you can actually do it with a slightly smaller chisel. I don't actually have a 10mm chisel. If I'd have had a 10mm chisel, I could have actually gone through trying, because ideally with this being the outside and the side that you'll see, you want this edge to be as clean as you can. But seeing this chisel is pretty new and sharp, I'll continue with this. But ideally, if I'd had a 10mm chisel, I'd have opened this up with the 10mm chisel, and then just give me a bit more scope just to tidy them up and keep them really neat. But sure, it'll look better when it's edited and speeded up. Let's face it, if the joint looks rubbish, I can soon put my subscribe button over the top of it so you can't see it. Joking, of course, there. One thing I would be interested to know from you fellow woodworkers who make YouTube videos, what software do you use? I'm using iMovies at the moment. I did have a go with Final Cut Pro. You get a 90-day trial, and actually I just found it too much messing about. I've got enough to do without learning new software. There we go, we start to go through now. Might just leave that now until I get my tenon cut, and then I can just let's see which is best then, my chiselling or my sawing skills. Try and leave a little tiny bit on so I can downside of having everything on wheels is you just tend to move about a bit. Right, that's the faces of the tenons cut. Let's cut the cheeks. Okay, that way then. Let's have a look. Should be a bit too tight, hopefully. Yeah, I'd rather it be too tight than too slack, because you can take it off, but you can't put it back on again. Yeah, cool. So I just need to clean that out a little bit more. I need to just clean the shoulders up. Actually, them joints are quite good. I'm happy with that joint. The face is nice. Number two, let's try and drill it out. And for this, just to locate the spur of the drill bit for the marking gauge, let's just do that. We're still going to have to get these corners out, and we'll have to go back to our mortise chisel just to clean these up. Right, so that's a drilled mortise. Let's cut this one out of the bandsaw. Keeping his edge matched to the fence. None of this is really time efficient, but of course if you was cutting out multiple ones of these, then I'm sure there's some efficiencies in numbers. So there we go, that's a hand drill mortise and a bandsaw tenon. Tenon cut marked on the end, and the mortise cut slightly longer than the width, so about 10mm 3/8 longer. Right, let's take that back to the bandsaw. That's the tenon. I cut it there, it's slack, so I need to have a little bit more, so I need to bring it back pretty much the thickness of the blade. That will do. I need to cut on the outside, so I need that to go back the thickness of the kerf. That's if I were doing loads of it. Bad. Just clean that out there back at the bench. Okay, that'll do. So that's bandsaw, mortice and tenon. Mortice number 4 is with the pillar drill, 12mm drill bit, the same drill bit as before, and all I've done is screwed a base, a piece of scrap that's pivoted at one end. I'm just going to mark the centre line of the mortise, penciling it so it's a little bit easier to see. Drop the spur in from the drill bit and then just move the fence up until it's all sat nice and snug with the fence, and then just put a clamp on it to hold it in place, and then I can drill along that line. Now the advantage of doing it with the pillar drill as opposed to hand drilling is you can actually move the stock up and down and just clean out the holes and elongate it. Be actually better if you were having a longer mortise. Obviously you'd have more chance to clean it out, but you still get the round ends which will have to have a straightened out, or actually you could actually just nip the end of the tenon off. The other thing is as well is you don't have to worry about the squareness. With an handheld drill, you just got to be careful that you're not waving from the vertical. That's mortise number 4, which was pillar drill. So for the tenon, I'm going to cut it on the cross cut, the table saw, and I'm just going to move it in and in. I've already set the blade to the height. If I was doing lots of these, I would actually change the blade for my grooving blade, so I would take it 6mm out as opposed to that 1.8mm. So let's put the ear defenders on and have a cut with this. Certainly the noisiest way, I think. Not too bad there. There's a little bit of a step there, which probably, yeah, actually it's not that the joint's out too much. Actually a bit of snipe in the end of my timber. It's a snug fit. Probably not quite centralised, but that's probably the quickest method that we've used so far. That is a table saw tenon. Piece number 5. See me here? You see me, mother? Okay, so number 5. I'm going to cut this with the router with a 12mm cutter in. Got more chips in it than Harry Ramsden's. If you don't know what Harry Ramsden's is, it's a fish and chip shop in the part of the world where I come from, West Yorkshire. probably would be my chosen method actually if it wasn't that I was cutting such a small mortise. Problem is we're cutting such a small mortise, it's quite hard to keep it when the lines have actually overshot the lines a little bit, but hey, not perfect. But for the sake of this demonstration it will do. Finally I'm going to cut this one using the depth stop on the Evolution Mitre-saw. To do this I've clamped a piece of wood to the back fence. First of all, that's the stop, just to make sure I get my shoulders right for the tenon, and secondly, because of the curvature of the blade, you need to bring, when you're half lapping or you've got the depth stop set on the Mitre-saw, you need a packer at the back, or else basically when you cut these you end up with a little bit of the curvature of the blade left on the timber. So ear protectors on and we'll give it a whirl. Measure between them two, it should be 12mm. Just need to address that I've just so there you go, it fits, it's not pretty. Crosscut saw or Mitre-saw, however you want to call it, and router. The method works, I were rubbish. I could actually just router that again and do another one and not edited it out and make it look like it were good, but we're all human and we all make a few mistakes every now and again. Let's just go through what we've achieved. Router cut, crosscut cut. Technically if you had a radial arm saw, that's a very similar process. It's also a similar process of using the table saw. You're just moving the blade over the stock as opposed to the stock over the blade. You could actually use a table router as well, I guess, and set a coping jig up and run like that for the tenon, and then actually in the same way we've cut the bandsaw one, run it in like that. So that's another option. The bandsaw one, I have to say I quite like that one actually, although you may argue that that's a bridle joint as opposed to Mortice and Tenon. If you think that's the case, drop me a comment. Table saw tenon I quite liked. I would use my thicker blade if I was going to do a batch, rather than use the mitre. That's a tight joint there actually. And rather than using the sort of the mitre stop on the saw table, use the table saw sledge, and that was the pillar drill mortise. That's the hand cut one, which actually, as far as today's concerned, probably my favourite. And that was the bandsaw tenon and a drill by hand mortise. So I think that's it today. That's 5 joints, 5 tenons, 5 mortises. Technically that's probably 25 joints, 5 times 5. I think the only thing other than the ones I've just been describing there, using the router and a sledge and a different cutter blade, I think the only one probably haven't done is do one up with the track saw. I guess in the same way as I use the mitre saw or the table saw, I could have just set a depth on my track saw, and if it had been a bigger tenon, if I'd have been cutting a 2, 3, 4 inch, even 6 inch, like on a rail of a door style, maybe I'd have used that. But I think for this little section of timber it might have been a bit wobbly, but I could have achieved it if we'd have wanted to. Now if you think I've missed something other than running out and buying a tenoning machine and a mortising machine, drop me a line in the comments, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it some use, please give me a thumbs up, and if you've not subscribed to my channel and you'd like to do so for future content, please hit the subscribe button. And until next time, bye.